Discover Help presents Stress-Free Living with Ray Samich and Mr. Stress-Free Ratanjit S. Sandhi. This audio program is an unscripted and unrehearsed conversation between Ray and Ratanjit. It is shared with you in hope of adding value to your life. We encourage you to listen to this program in its entirety to receive the full impact of its message. Sit back, relax, open your heart, mind, and soul to this edition of Stress-Free Living.
This is Stress-Free Living. Thank you so much for being with us here today. I'm Ray Samich, and I'd like to introduce you to my longtime radio colleague, a co-host of this program, and my dear friend and spiritual brother, Ratanjit Sandhi. Ratanjit, how are you today?
Wonderful, Ray. Seeing your smiley face brightens the day.
Well, thank you so much. We are, you've taught me so much, Ratanjit, over these decades, 3 decades that we've been together. And one of them is to be grateful every moment that we're still here and that we have a chance to greet another day and go forward and add value to the world. And in this particular case, be with you. So, I mean, how much better does it get than to spend the time with you on these days, as well as all of our listeners, our audiences, whether you're live or whether you're listening to this on a pre-recorded basis. We also have our Zoom guests that are joining us live every week. So we have conversations with all of them during the breaks and before and after the show. And we invite you to be part of that too. If you would like to, you can go out to our YouTube channel, which is Stress-Free Living Radio. And you can view there over 80 programs that we've had on a variety of topics. And you can also pick up the link there and join us on a live basis on our shows. Ratanjit, we are in the middle, speaking of adding value, which I alluded to a moment ago, we are really dissecting what it means to add value, how to do it the best way. You've come up with a very brilliant way of helping people remember this, since it's so important in our lives, with the acronym add value, with every letter meaning something. So we got through add last week, ADD. Let's start with a quick summary if somebody wasn't with us. What does the ADD stand for?
It's very important to understand why we need to add value. So our real worth is basically depends on what kind of value do we add. So when your mindset is, generally we add value to very partially. So he has not been very good to me, so I don't add value. And he has been very good to me, I add value. So what we are talking about in this episode is adding the highest value, because ultimately your sustainable success comes from making your best better, constantly adding the highest value. But you have to do it unconditionally, because you never know when somebody today is not meaningful, but tomorrow that same party or same person can be very meaningful. So until we add value unconditionally, we cannot add the value. So ultimately, we have to realize that adding value, which is highest, that is unconditional, basically is not doing for others. What it does is it basically enhances your own self-worth, your own persona of you. So you begin to have the real confidence. You begin to have, no matter what you do, as success. Now, how to add the highest value is hidden in deciphering this word add value, ADDVALUE. Each letter has a deep meaning. So we covered ADD, but I want to give a brief summary of those letters. So first A stands for awareness of the truth. So our truths are different. My truth is different than yours. So what truth are we talking about? So a truth which never changes with the age, which is timeless, which is sustainable. And what is that truth? That truth is that we are empowered. So this human body is basically made out of the element of this earth. So human body is empowered. It is given life. We enliven it by a single universal force. That is the truth. And once we understand that universal force and begin to see the presence of that universal force in everyone we come across, we have deep incentive to add value, and which would be unconditional. It would be not conditioned on age or nationality or race or gender or all these things, or title, or somebody is rich or poor. So all these items are basically taken away, and you see only the enlivening force presence in that human body. So it gives you incentive to add the highest value to that human body. So second, I do want to mention a quote from Albert Einstein, who is a scientist in his old age, in his final years. He wrote this quote. And he says, a person experiences life as something separated from the rest, a kind of optical delusion of consciousness. Again, a person experiences life as something separated from the rest. So we constantly divide, this is this, this is that, and he's Christian, he's atheist, or he's man, or he's woman, or he's black, or he's white, or so on. So we segregate life. A person experiences life as something separated from the rest, a kind of optical delusion of consciousness. Then he says, our task must be to free ourselves from this self-imposed prison. This prison we live in is self-imposed. And how do you do that? And through compassion, to find the reality of oneness. So that is the truth we need to constantly be aware of. Constantly, everything in life we see from that angle, from oneness. So automatically you begin to add value unconditionally. Now the second letter.
Ratanjit, if I could just throw one quick comment in on that, because you've heard me say, I've heard you talk about that quote from Einstein for years and years and years. And I don't know if I've ever commented on this program about it. We know about Einstein as being considered one of the most, if not the most brilliant human beings that's ever walked the earth. I mean, what he learned, what he taught, what he determined was just still amazing. And this is decades ago. It still hasn't been surpassed. But he's not known for his spirituality. He's not known for his philosophical thinking. He's known for science. He's known for pure IQ intelligence factors. So my comment is that for people who say, okay, when I hear Ratanjit talk about oneness and universal truth, and and the one truth and everything. That's just because he's being spiritual, and I can't quite grab that spirituality. That's just not part of me yet. Okay, maybe someday I'll get there, but I'm not there yet. Even if you don't think of it from the spiritual side, if you just look at a man like Einstein, who was a brilliant scientist, a brilliant mind person, he still in his later years came up with that same conclusion that people who are deeply spiritual, like yourself, your whole life, have come to. So it's kind of the inevitable conclusion. It is the inevitable reality, whether you come in from the spiritual side or whether you come in from the scientific, intellectual side, you get to that same point, as proven by this person who is, again, renowned as being so intelligent. So I hope people, that gives them an extra reason to seriously understand how vital this aspect is. However you approach it, it doesn't matter. This is where you need to end up.
The fact is that all our knowledge, education, training, experience, intelligence, title, trophy, awards, all our wealth, without comprehending, understanding, and applying oneness, only remains highly decorated and glorified ignorance.
That hurts because it's so true.
There is another fact of life that is just as darkness is barely the absence of light. You bring the light in, darkness goes away. Right. So you cannot fight darkness. Similarly, our ego. So we are trying to reduce your ego. We are trying to, or everyone says, check your ego. I have low ego. So the ego is merely the absence of that truth of oneness. Once you bring that oneness, we begin to see the enlivening force present in each human body, then the ego disappears, just like darkness disappears. You don't have to do anything. So this subject you can talk and for years and you still. Right. Right. So you have to understand in this awareness, you are either your ego, you are either darkness, or you are light, you are oneness. So they cannot coexist. Mm-hmm. They basically one or other.
Right.
So next letter is D. This D is who is directing. This is a director, life's director. So life is a movie. So who is directing your movie? Is the truth of oneness directing your movie? Or your fear, greed, prejudice, anger, lust, ego are directing your movie? And basically, there are two elements in our human body system. There is this human body, which is made out of five. We control everything through five senses. It senses everything. Information gathering instrument are five senses. So when your human body is directing your movie, your human body knows inherently that it's going to die, is filled in fear. Anytime when you don't know any place, you are hesitant to go there. And it is always hungry. It is going to die if it doesn't feed. So it is inherently parked in so-called greed. It always never has enough. And it is consider itself to be separate. It is parked in ego. It is always insecure. So these elements which are going to direct your movie. So as a consequence, you are going to be fear-filled, greedy, egotistic, insecure, jealous, prejudiced, lust-filled, and all these properties are going to be there. There is nothing wrong with you if your brain is directed by the human body, the five senses. This is what is going to result. Now, A is given us the awareness. So if our mind or thinking is directed by the oneness power which enlivens us, it has no fear. It is not fear of dying. It was there before. It is going to be there. And it has no greed. It has no ego. So ultimately, your brain is going to have right opportunity, then you would not hesitate to add value unconditionally. Because once your brain is directed by this enlivening force, it automatically goes into that mode. So, second letter.
Okay, I've got one more comment on that, Ratanjit, if I can.
Yes.
If you ask somebody, we're going to do a movie of your life, and you're still alive, obviously, they would say, who do you want to direct it? And you would say, well, it's my life. I have to make sure it's perfect. So I want to direct it. It's got to be me. I can't trust somebody else to tell my story. It has to be me. Now, when they do a life of somebody who passed away, obviously they find another director. But if that person's alive, he wants to direct it. Okay. And you have said many times that our human body is not the real us. So the only way that we can direct our movie is if it's the real us directing it and not some other thing, which would happen to be our human body, which isn't the real us, right? So
Yes.
It has to be the real us directing it, or it's like getting somebody outside. It's like getting somebody who doesn't really know the real us at all to direct our movie.
Absolutely. Thank you.
So it has to be the real us. Okay. Next, what's the second D?
The second D stands for discipline. So this discipline, basically, if we talk about freedom, freedom is the biggest thing there is. So ultimately, we live under universal discipline. Gravity is acting, so you'll never be free of gravitational force. You will never be free of your hunger. You're never be free of all these things which are there around us. Natural rules and regulations, when we unveil, we developed science and technology. So the only thing we have the freedom to control, to choose, is our discipline. And when we choose our discipline, we create our freedom. So when you take water and have no boundary to the water, you let it free. It dissipates, it goes and has no use. When the same water is put under a discipline and confined configuration, you put it in a vessel and you put pressure, and when the water comes out through a nozzle, it has pressure. And depends on the pressure, it can even cut the stone. It has so much power. The power lies in discipline. And discipline gives you the freedom to have the power. The discipline, once you allow the discipline to basically handle yourself, then these discipline will give you the freedom, and this will give you the control of your five senses, and you will be able to add the value unconditionally. Ultimately, the most liberating discipline is embedded in the awareness of habits of staying in the present, and take life, accept life with total gratefulness and unconditionally, and that eventually parts you into oneness. So ultimate discipline we have to cultivate is staying in the present. So if we are staying in the past, with most of, when you meet somebody, your old friend, and basically what you're talking about, the old good time or the future, you never talk about, you never stay in the present. So when you can only add the highest value by staying in the present. So you have to have the discipline of staying in the present. And also there is another factor we talked about. I don't have enough time to go through that. We talked about the core character which is within us. And sometimes there is a word in Indian language which is called dharma, which many of us mistake as religion. The difference between dharma and religion is generally a man-made institution. Dharma, we are born with it. This is in our soul. Religion is forced, assigned, or chosen. Dharma, you cannot be forced, cannot be assigned, cannot be chosen. It is there. You have to really unveil your own core character, which is basically becomes available to you once you understand the core truth and begin to guide your mind by the divine force present in you to enliven rather than the five senses. So this dharma basically has to be unveiled as a final discipline. So now we are ready to unveil.
Well, we might be, except you've done such an incredibly amazing job of summarizing that we have come to our first break. So we need to take this break. And when we come back, we will get into the V of value so that we start dissecting the last five letters. Not sure we're going to get them all done today, but we're going to do our best, starting with the letter V when we come back on this edition of Stress Free Living. Stay with us.
Okay.
All right, we have now our 90 seconds or so. We're on break, radio break. So if anybody has a quick comment or a question for Ratanjit, we don't have to move on to the V. If there's still a question out there on the ADD, please ask it now. Unmute yourself and ask if you've got something. If not, that's okay too.
Any comment?
This is Doug. I don't really have
Go ahead, Doug.
But you always bring my mind around at the Jeep when you're talking, and you say living in the presence, and talk about, a lot of times I'll be talking about my career with CDOT, and my wife brings me back to the present. She said, Doug, get over it. It's done with. You're in the present now. You're not in the past. So I keep working on that.
Thank you.
Well, it's easy when we've had successes. It's very easy to want to stay in there in that good moment. But life is the future. Life is the present.
When you're parked in your human body mode, it wants to feel good. It wants to have ego, and ego basically picks up what is good in the past and basically talks about the past.
Yeah.
Now,
Anybody else have a quick thought or a question? It's okay if you don't. We're going to move on. I don't know if we'll get through all 5 here in the next. we have about 20 minutes left, but it was very excellent to summarize again. We'll get as many of as we can. We're coming back. We are back on Stress-Free Living with Ray Samich and Ratanjit Sandhi, talking about adding the highest value. And Ratanjit, let's get right into it. For the word value, what is the secret that is in there starting with the letter V?
The V stands for our life's vision. We are here to visualize and achieve something. So undertaking a lofty vision is ultimate the outcome of great persons, great people. So many in the world leaders basically are directed by lofty vision, but their lofty vision is embedded in their agenda, their fear, their ego, their greed. So normally your vision does not get pure incentive to add the highest value, which is ultimately your vision. And so once you convert this vision into the real vision of adding the highest value through understanding ADD, and that gives you the power to really have that. So there is another fact of life. When you look at a tree, you evaluate the tree from the fruits it gives, its value. So if a tree doesn't give any fruits, it's only a decoration. If it gives flower, yeah, it has some value. If it's only green, it has some value, but the tree which gives you the highest fruit, the best fruit, has the highest value. So when you add the highest value, you begin to give them very intensive fruits, very useful, valuable fruits. Now, the secret is that we only see the outer portion of a tree. We never see its roots. So until the roots are properly watered, properly nurtured, the tree is not able to give the fruits. So as long as we are part in adding the highest value, which is our fruit, which we give, we have to park our understanding, which is our roots, our values, and our vision, or everything has to be part in the parameter dictated by oneness. Or else we will have incorrect values, we will have incorrect character. The character which I talked about, having, you basically are given a dharma. We are given a character. That character is of two entities which exist in us. One character is of human body, the other character is of you. until you know the secret that you are the divinity, you are the enlivening power, that is who you are not the human body. So your true character, which is comes to you from the character of the divine enlivening force, which has no agenda except to add the highest value. So your purpose, your vision in life begins to fall in place. Once you understand that you have to nurture your roots, which is going to yield the fruit of adding the highest value, otherwise it doesn't. There's another thing which you have heard of, Japanese bonsai tree. These are small trees.
Mhm.
They never go bigger than that. You know why? The secret is they constantly trim their roots.
Oh.
So if you have trimmed your roots to look good, so you are never going to grow bigger. You're never going to grow into a bigger, fuller tree. So, it's interesting that the vision of a corporation or your own mission becomes very valuable. In basically all the consultant would advise a corporation, you have to write your vision, you have to write your mission, you have to write your values. So when I ran my company, so once I became aware of oneness, our vision changed to this. Our vision was, we must realize that we are all an inseparable part of the bigger one. And that it is only through serving this bigger one continuously and unconditionally that we could ever truly serve ourselves. So once that vision becomes clear, we reflect every decision into this vision. And as a consequence of that vision or mission, typically a company has a mission, I want to make the best product. I want to make whatever they make, I want to make this gadget to be the best in the world. So our mission was to provide unparalleled value, performance, and service to our team member, to our customer, to business associate, society, and our environment. So it was never addressed as tied into a product. It was tied into providing unparalleled value. And Ray, you have a comment?
I don't want to interrupt you because you're on a roll, but I do have a question. Can I ask now or should I wait?
Sure.
Okay, all right. One of the things I like about you putting V in this whole story is that I think as individuals, we don't really think often about our vision or about our mission statement. Companies do it all the time. And the biggest corporations, they proudly put it on their websites and they have it on big posters in their business so everybody can see it and understand it. But as humans, as individuals, we rarely think about it. I mean, so if we were to do this, if we were to say, what is my vision? I think everybody understands mission statement. They get that. How I want to go here. I want to get from A to B. So this is my mission. I want to get there. This is how I'm going to accomplish it. How does a vision in your mind compare to a mission statement? What's the difference?
Well, vision is your perspective of the reality. Before you start tying into a mission, your mission going to be controlled by your five senses. you are going to be, I want to make the highest profit. I want to give the highest, this maximum profit or maximum, this, my product has to be better than the competition. And the competition is not your old best, your competition outside of you, another company. Your real competition is your best you have delivered before. You have to make it your best better. So once that vision of the company becomes the same as yours, same as all the employees, the vision of the company is not realistic. So this vision that we must realize that we are all part of inseparable bigger one. And it is only through serving that bigger one, which is present in each individual, that we have any chance of serving ourselves. So this is
so if I'm asking the difference between the two, is the vision more philosophical then? Is the vision more dreaming of, it's an abstract thought, like this is ideally in my perfect world, this is what I want to believe in, this is what I want to do, and not from a practical standpoint, but from a visionary standpoint?
It has to be parked in the truth, the awareness of the truth, awareness of the real truth, give us that instrument to write our vision. So if your vision is not parked in the truth, the ultimate truth, that we are one, that vision is incorrect. So it is irony that just about every human being would have the same vision if they knew the truth. So I have written a vision for entire human race.
Well, then you better read it again, since you're doing all the work for us. Tell us what my vision, tell me what my vision is that I didn't know.
Yeah, our vision is that we must realize that we are all inseparable part of the bigger one, the omnipresent power. And that it is only through serving this bigger one continuously and unconditionally that we could ever truly serve ourselves. So it is ultimate way to be selfish.
All right. You please send that to me after today's show. I'm going to post that on our Stress Free Living radio channel so that everybody knows that that's our vision. It's your vision, my vision, their vision, our vision. So we can start understanding that that's got to be our core. And I'm not being facetious. I'm being very serious about this. I appreciate you sharing that with all of us today so we understand that's where we need to be. Okay. Are we able to move on to A?
Yes, we can move on to A, or A stands for anchoring. We talked about all these things. We have to anchor. If you are not anchored until we find our true anchor, we will be aimlessly drifting all our life, chasing falsehood. It is very important. So what should we anchor into? Should we anchor into our intelligence, our skills, our education, our title, our wealth, our culture, our family, our society, our faith, our gender, our heritage, and so on? So what our whole world is anchored is basically they're anchored into our five senses. Basically, they are anchored into our greed, which is our insecurity, and ego, which is reflection of our five senses, human body. So you can only anchor either into your human body, which is ego, or you can anchor into the awareness, the truth, which we know is oneness. So if we anchor into oneness, basically, then only you are in a position to add the highest value unconditionally. So the big question is, how do we anchor into oneness? You know, we are basically, when you look at it, when we, what we naturally, our human mind, which is anchored by our ego, your five senses, basically focuses three aspects. Either they are thinking about our insecurity, worry about our insecurity, which is related to wealth, health, and family, possessions, and your future. They are basically part in greed, fear, and distrust and deceitment. Or you are part in ego. That gives you jealousy, anger, pride, bragging, arrogance, all that. Or you are part in sexual thoughts, your lust, that basically loses your focus, your obsession. Basically, these are the things you are part in: insecurity, ego, and sex. So until you are anchored in oneness, you will not get rid of these scenarios. But when you are part in oneness, basically you are part in, basically you are truly anchored. You know yourself. You see all in one and one in all. You have integrity because you integrate with oneness, the truth. Automatically, you will have integrity. You have no fear. You have no greed. Basically, you cannot lie because you see everybody as one. So lying only happens to another person. There is no another person. So honesty happens. It's because everything belongs to this universal power. There's no ownership left. Your gratefulness comes from everything you possess. You become egoless and you park in the present. And now you have a purpose, which is you are purpose directed. You have clear focus. You are highly driven. You are self-motivated. You are selfless. You are service-oriented, value-adding. You become a truly value-adding entity. You become a team player. You become a true leader. And you become an ultimate student of life. So, and all this gives you joy because you achieve contentment, peace of mind, and it is also making you energetic and enthusiastic. Ray?
Ratanjit, I'm gonna stop you there because we need to take a quick break again, our last break of the program. We come back, it'll be very tight. We'll see if we can get through the LUE in the last few minutes. Hopefully we can. This is Stress-Free Living, talking today about how to remember to add the highest value all the time. We'll be right back. All right, we have 90 seconds here. Ratanjit will come back. We'll have about 8 minutes left. So I don't know if we can get through those quickly. If not, we'll have to extend this to another show. Anybody have a quick thought? Welcome, Jogesh has just joined us, and Kim has joined us here too, a little late, but we're so glad to have you both. Anybody have a quick thought for us while we're on break?
Well, my quick thought is as I talked about, my wife telling me to get over my career with CDOT, the first thing that popped into my head was, well, with Ratanjit, how often does he think back to Polycarb, the very, very successful company that he started, build it up to a very prominent company around. So I wonder how often he thinks back to those days.
Well, you want to give a quick answer on that, Ratanjit? We have a moment before we start again.
I don't think of that as my company, or I only think of experiences which it has given me.
Okay. So everything is a learning process. I mean, everything we should learn something from and take it with us on the journey.
Yes.
Okay. Very good. Successes and failures. And I know you said before, you learn a lot more from our mistakes and our failures than from our successes. All right, we have a couple seconds left. If anybody quickly wants to check in. If not, that's okay too. We're gonna try to run through this. Ratanjit, you think there's any chance at all of getting 3 done in 8 minutes?
Yeah, we'll try it.
Uh-oh. We're coming back. We are back on Stress Free Living with Ratanjit Sunday. Yours truly, Ray Samich. And we're we're rounding third and heading home here. LUE of add value. Ratanjit, what does the L stand for?
S stands for learning. So learning basically means that you have to become lifelong students. Interestingly, that all your education, training, and experience give you efficiency, which makes you able to doing the right things, or doing the things right. So, but this oneness paradigm, awareness of oneness, anchoring into oneness, gives you the efficiency to know what is right, what are the right things to do. So normally, we are only focused on doing the things right. We never understand which are the right things to do. So if you are constantly, you will always fail by doing the wrong things most efficiently. So this learning makes you realize that you remain in the student mode, and student mode will put you in 2 paradigms. You will learn to do things right. You will do the most efficiently things right. But before you do that, you would know what are the right things to do. You will not waste your talent, your education, your skills on just doing your best. You will first figure out what are the right things to do. So this learning process is a twofold. We have to learn how to do things more efficiently, but we have to also know how to do things, right things to do. So you have to become the true student, which is basically a part in oneness. It always thinks of serving oneness. It always is part in gratefulness. It is always part in the present. So that is very important to be a true student.
All right, let's move on to you.
All right, before I go to, if I have time, I'll come back to L once again. So you is unconditional. So basically, life cycle, there are 7 stages. First one is curious. When a child is born, everything is curious. They want to know. The second stage is your parents tell you something, your religion tell you another thing, your school, you start believing. Second stage is of believing. Third stage is of thinking. You're a teenager, you challenge everything. You begin to think of your own. The fourth stage is you're experiencing life. So what you have learned many times is not comply with your experience. And the fifth stage is questioning and evaluating. So when you start questioning and evaluating, you don't find all the answers. So stage 6 is ultimately you surrender to either higher divine power, or you become spiritual, or you begin to you basically surrender. So the final stage is being. Being means you become part in awareness of oneness. You see the power within you and around you. The anchoring and the awareness of oneness eventually parts you into being. So when you are being, you are always in the present. You are in a position to add the highest value. So, you have any questions?
I love it. I've never heard about those 7 stages before. I think that's really, and they're right on. I agree with all of them. But how does that 7 stages tie into unconditional? Why do you choose to talk about 7 stages in that letter?
So you cannot be unconditional until you get into the state of being. All these other states will not allow you to be unconditional. To be adding the highest value unconditionally, you have to be in the state of being. Our awareness grows, and we come to understand that we are interconnected one. Life becomes a non-stop blossoming process, becoming what we are designed to be. We are designed to be blossoming constantly. And intelligence no longer drives you. Instead of our heart and inner conscious leads you. Loving, serving, and giving becomes our passion, and which feeds our heart and soul. In this state of being, you become the highest value adding entity. You don't add the highest value, but you become the entity which only can add the highest value, and continuously making your best better to serve every situation, all of humanity, and all of environment unconditionally.
We have 1 minute, Ratanjit. Can you give even a little bit of a tease on that one?
Yeah, E is empowerment. What empowers us is not our knowledge. We talk about it, we lecture about it, we always discuss, write books about it. But what we practice are our habits. Until you have habits of constantly being part in oneness, constantly being in the present, you simply cannot add value. So you have to add, so there are 25 habits which you are aware of, and there are first 12 habits which are self-integration habits, which allow you to practice oneness. and we don't have time, we will cover a separate program on habits itself. So
Yes, we will. Ratanjit, thank you. I'm sorry for squeezing that in there at the last few minutes, but we wanted to get through this. ADDVALUE. Please share this, everybody. Share these couple of programs, actually a series of 3, with those in your life who you feel really can help themselves, help their vision, help who they are, and help where they want to be in their life with this show. Ratanjit, thank you as always. Just so much goodness and value and wisdom that you add to our lives. Remember, everybody, we're all playing the same game. Enjoy your day. We'll talk with you again real soon.
thank you.
All right. We made it. 10 o'clock, right on the nose. Perfect. If now we have the time to open up, if anybody would like to talk with us, and especially with Ratanjit, please do it now. Unmute yourself and feel free to add your thoughts.
We haven't heard from Dr. Marsh today.
No, we haven't. He's been very quiet.
Well, so I am here. I've heard the whole thing. I don't know how to say this judiciously, but I think the others might be aware of it, that this is very philosophical. Everything had to fit into the letters. And quite honestly, when we have Ray playing sort of devil's advocate and we're talking about much more practical things, I think it's more appealing. It was more like I was attending a lecture. And so I think we need that interplay that we usually have. And in that way, I think for all of us, we were philosophically that, and I love the analogies, but in reality, it helps if here's what happened to me, here's what, and I think on a more practical basis, it has more appeal. I'm trying to be judicious.
No, we appreciate the feedback. You know, I sacrificed today that interaction because this is already a 3rd show. Maybe we should have said, let's do this over 4 and and I could have done the exchange on these last 5 letters more appropriately, because I did have some thoughts in terms of how does this fit in. So advice well taken. You should have said that on the first break, Doctor, and then we could have changed the plan here, because then I could have interplayed more, but I appreciate your thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you. I was probably in the more ego mood and didn't want to hurt anybody's ego, so I chose to say nothing.
Yeah, I appreciate that too. Thank you. Anybody else? And critiques are good. We like to learn. We're lifetime students, so we have to learn.
Ray, I am going to jump in. I can jump in one other thing.
Good.
Philosophically. So
Yeah.
I will tell you how much value. I had a meeting with my staff/team on Thursday, and ultimately they all work together. They work to earn a living. But I often referred to Dr. Sandi's comment about in our office, in our practice, we're adding value to others people's lives. And so much of why I continue at the age I'm at is because we all understand money, getting paid for a job, but ultimately I said our job is to add value, to make a difference in every appointment and every interaction they have with our team. And I said, please, those aren't empty words. That's not philosophy. It is philosophy. It's more about that's why we do what we do. And I said, if you're not comfortable for that and you're here to earn a living, but you don't have that adding value to people, maybe this isn't the right spot for you. So I appreciate Dr. Sandi's words on that. And I try to live. I think we all who are on this try to live that.
You know, you missed 2 critical things in that. Everybody adds value one way or other. Until you add the highest value, and until you add unconditionally, it does not qualify to be adding the highest value. So add the word highest into your value adding. add the word unconditionally into your value adding. So it will take you to the new height.
And I appreciate that. Easier said
Since-
than done, but I appreciate that.
And I'm gonna, since Dr. Morris says that I'm the practical one, I'm gonna add this practical side to it. You have to start with adding value. You have to start with that, Ratanjit, because as simple as you think that is, as simple as that level is that we have to evolve from to add the highest value, in this world, there are a ton of people that don't even think adding value is important, or they don't think about it. So you, with all respect, you do need to start with that level, and that level will make a difference. Okay. And then when it's time to be appropriate, and you see people on board with that, then I think Dr. Marsh can introduce the next level. I had the occasion to help write a mission statement for a company, a separate company, and they loved the idea of adding value. And they read that every single day in a team meeting, every single morning. And when they were doing it, the company advanced at a higher level than it had ever been, a 20-year company. And everybody was on the same page, and everybody was being treated right, and the customers, and there was growth and positivity. There was a change of management, and they stopped doing that. And the company deteriorated back to where it was. So even the level of adding value will make a difference in the world. I'm not disagreeing with you. Ultimately, it needs to be unconditional highest level, but and I don't mean to discriminate with young people, but a lot of younger people, by that I mean under 40, they don't even understand adding value. It just hasn't been taught to them. That it's not as common as you think it is. People, they're just all about just, going through the motions. They come to work on Monday morning, and I ask them, I says, how was your weekend? Good. 5 days till Friday. I mean, that's their mindset. I have to get through 5 days of work until I get to next Friday night so I can start having fun again. They don't think about adding value Monday through Friday.
Adding the highest value is not a destination. It is a journey. So in the process, we have time slots. A customer needs a product on such and such day. So you can only make it better up to that time, and you have to manufacture it and deliver it. But in the process after delivering, you can continuously think about how could you have done it better. So that puts you on the journey. So what happens is, otherwise adding the highest value takes you away from being a student, being continuously improve your best to better. So you have to have the mindset of adding the highest value simultaneously when you are adding the value, because value adding is a time-based situation. On a certain things, you are hungry, you have to feed yourself, so you prepare something on the time, but you can always make it better, it more valuable when you study the calories and vitamins and other ingredients on this thing. You can definitely add something else to make it better. So you have to have that mindset backing in the back of your mind to continuously make. So it's not a two-step process. It is a process.
Don't you think you have to walk before you run?
No, that doesn't apply. So when you are walking, you have running in mind. So what you are walking changes differently if you have running in mind. Otherwise, it remains. You have to constantly think of next step, because otherwise you are going to be you have added value, and oh, I have added value. So it is going very quickly into your ego mode. So when you are parked in adding your value to the next level, I have not done enough to make it better. So your ego mode disappears.
Respectfully, if I'm crawling as a baby, I don't even know what running is. Okay. All I know is that it's very slow to get around on all fours. And I see everybody walking around me and I'm saying, gee, maybe there's an easier way, because they're moving across the floor in 1/10 the time that it takes me to crawl across. So I'm crawling as fast as I can. I'm still not walking. So I get up on my 2 feet and I realize this is a better way. I'm not thinking about running. I'm just thinking about improving from where I'm at. And so to me, and again, I say this so respectfully, and I know you built an incredible company and you've done amazing things, but the mindset today is barely that I don't need to crawl. I mean, they don't
You have seen the
they don't
baby,
think
when it walks, it runs. And that's why it falls. So that incentive is internally to run. So initially, you always want to beat yourself in your performance.
I don't know. That's the ideal world, to jump right to adding the highest value. I just don't know if people.
No, it's not ideal. It's a mindset which allows you adding the highest value. Otherwise, you get parked and you become habitual in adding the value. I'm adding the value, and that becomes ego.
Yeah, I see that. I see, and
Get you out of the ego mode, you have to consider adding the highest value, because you can never add the highest value. You can always improve.
right?
So that mindset challenges you to innovate, to learn new things, to constantly being in a student mode. So adding the value is basically already parked in greed mode and are already parked in the ego mode. So whoever only stops at adding value, you will find them in these modes. Oh, I have added value. When you ask them,
I agree with most. I
have
agree
you
with
added the
most of
highest-
what you said.
have you added the highest value? The answer is no.
Yeah, I just think that there's a certain level of fulfillment that people aren't even experiencing now that they would get out of adding value.
You're thinking in the ego mode.
Probably. I don't doubt that. I think that so many people are parked in that ego mode. I don't know if they can jump all the way to that total non-ego mode. If they, even if they add value and they start getting, and again, you were in the real world of employment and business all the time. The most important thing, as you say, is telling people they did a good job. Okay. Before you criticize them, you always have to compliment them. You have to acknowledge the good things, catch them doing good. And again, I'm honestly frustrated in the workplace these days, because it's hard to even find the things that they do well. Okay. I mean, I get work that's done 3 or 4 times wrong. I take the time to teach and I still don't get it back the way that I've taught them. And it's just so hard to get them to add value, let alone to add the highest value. And I'm not just saying 1 or 2 cases. I have to terminate people and I bring new people in and I get the same results. It's really difficult today to find quality people. That's why when you go to the stores, they check out wrong. They tell you they're going to find something and they disappear. They don't come back. You go through the fast, the checkout line or the drive-through, and you look in your bag and some of the items are wrong. There's just so much that is inferior work being done out there.
See,
They don't even care about adding basic value, let alone highest value.
so once you expect your employees to add the highest value, you have missed the boat. You have to focus yourself in adding the highest value. By adding the highest value to employee is conveying this message so that they can understand which is going to add the highest value to them, because they begin to add the highest value after understanding that, so that elevates them. So it is our responsibility to turn the employees into highest value adding entities. It is not, if we expect our employees to add the highest value, you got it wrong. For you to add the highest value to an employee initially is going to be able to convince them one way or other to add the highest value, to make them into highest value. So automatically you have elevated them. So your purpose is to add the highest value to them by making them the highest value adding entity.
I know you're right, and I say this respectfully. I don't say this in any way sarcastically. I know you're right, because you are right. You've got this wisdom and an amazing sense of wisdom. It really is difficult to present adding the highest value before I've even presented and they understand adding value. It's very difficult for us to do that. I will try to make that adjustment and see if that works better than what's not working so far for me.
See,
So,
all our life, we spend everything in building our net worth. What ultimately matters is our self-worth. And it is by building your self-worth, you ultimately are in a position to build amazing net worth. So self-worth leads you to net worth. So vice versa is not possible.
totally agree with that. You're absolutely right. You got to start with having some kind of worth.
Yeah, let's take some questions from our.
Yes. Sorry for continuing the show. We turned around to there, Dr. Steve. There you got your interplay that you were looking for.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Anybody else would like to comment? There's Kim. We haven't heard from you, Kim.
So happy that I plugged in. I apologize for being late. I had another call. Ratanjit, I went to a business coach once to help me with finances. And I thought, oh my gosh, look at my degrees. Look at everything that I'm doing. I don't understand why I can't seem to have a breakthrough in this area of my life. And she said to me, after chatting with me for a little bit, she gave me my check back. She said, you don't need a finance coach. She said, you have a heart issue. She said, mend your broken heart and your money will show up. This is a self-worth issue. This is not a net worth issue. So you saying that? Yes. Oh my gosh. I feel like I'm standing on the top of a mountain with both fists in the air because I've just turned the corner on valuing myself and recognizing just how powerful it is to, number one, love myself and take care of me. And then this connection, this unending connection with others, like what I do to others, I do to myself. It's just accelerating the pace of it's enriching my life everywhere. It's just enriching my life everywhere. Cultivating the garden that is my life makes the world more beautiful for me and everyone in it.
Yes. Yeah. See, once we serve the presence of enlivening force in us, then only we can serve the enlivening force in others. So when you service yourself, you basically are serving the divine force present in you.
It took me to get cancer, breast cancer, twice to get how I was not taking care of myself. I thought it was right to neglect myself or to put myself on the back burner and to service everyone around me.
You can't
And
do that.
I cannot. And I learned that when I sat down to get my affairs in order so that my children would not be afraid, because I'm a single mother of 4, and then I'm raising my deceased sister's children as well. So I took in 3 more while I was in graduate school. I wanted to get organized because I think like a project manager. I want to make sure everything is covered. And I didn't want the children to be afraid. So I said, when people were calling saying, oh my gosh, what can I do to help? I never wanted to ask anyone to do anything that would make them feel uncomfortable. So I started making lists. Okay, these are the people that you call if you need help with homework, if you need a ride to practice, if mom needs something, if you need prayer. You know, I had no idea before going into treatment what the actual experience was going to be like, if I would be debilitated and unable to do anything, or if I would be okay. I'm so grateful to God that I wasn't totally immobile, but I wanted to be prepared for the worst, that the children would have clear instructions. Here's what to do, here's who to call. And out of this journal of mine, I had people who would bring dinner, other people who would do just all different things. It was my journal. And then I created like my communication, how I wanted to be served. I didn't want to take for granted that people would know what I wanted. I felt it was my responsibility to be clear. So I created this Living with Breast Cancer pamphlet that's now published and distributed all over the world at breast cancer walks everywhere, at the hospitals in Cleveland and Illinois. And it's a beautiful pamphlet. I'm looking around, I don't have one on my desk. A beautiful pamphlet that we share with the world that was my journal to my kids. And I now put me on top of, I put my oxygen mask on first, and now I'm more vibrant and alive to do even greater work in the community as a result. And the last thing I want to say is my 170-page capstone when I got my master's degree was going from self-neglect to self-care. That was my thesis.
Wonderful.
From self-neglect to self-care, and boy, rocking my world in a very positive way. Thank you for letting me share.
You are a gem. You're a gem. Thank you.
7 children.
Thank you.
Ultimately, 7 children you raised. That's amazing. That's part of your legacy, but it sounds like you have a great one beyond that too. Nice job.
Gurbaksh, any comment? This is the first time you have joined us. So we'll unmute and share with us. What do you think?
Yes, myself, I really enjoyed the whole session, and it brings back some memories for me. We've talked many times about these very things, and it never kind of fails to amaze me that everything that you were saying is so true, and it was true when you were telling me for the first time. And I really enjoyed the session.
Thank you.
One point I wanted to make between, like your discussion, interchange with Ray and yourself, that when you're just adding value, like how do you add highest value? So I think of it like highest value is kind of the ultimate goal. And like you said, that we'll never get there because we're always trying to make it better than what we did the last time. So it's really that journey. So I shouldn't really worry about, am I adding the highest value today or not? Because I know I still have to improve. So just a little thought about how to deal with, if I don't understand highest value, then what can I do?
It's the intent which is very important. When you have the intent of adding the highest value, you suddenly see a few things which you will add to that, which will differentiate from adding just the highest value. So this intent has to be there to add the highest value.
Well, like you're always trying to improve your best.
Yeah.
So ultimately, perhaps I can't say what is highest value today, but when I ultimately keep doing it, and then I will see, perhaps it will become more clear to me, which it is right now. That's because my own inability to observe and follow through on things as I become more aware of how to improve my best, then perhaps light will shine.
Yes.
Ultimately does for many people. So I'm hopeful that that for me too.
Thank you. Thank you.
I just want to say, Barsap, that light is always shining. We are just in the way.
Yes, yes, yes.
You know, we just need to look at ourselves first, and that is the beginning of everything.
The whole world rotates around you, and if you are dead, the world is dead. So your awareness comes from you. So when we add value to others, basically we are elevating ourselves. You never do it for others. This concept of helping others and making a difference is erroneous, because all you're doing is making a difference to yourself.
And it's in simple things. We are looking for complex things, but it really is in simple things.
It's a very simple. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And it was a beautiful program.
Thank you.
You know, very, very good. Thanks a lot.
Good to see you. You're very healthy.
Yogesh, any comment?
I thought in add value for each word, a letter, you had some good things to say. But I was wondering, serving, loving is one part of the brain which is not logical. It's just like the left part of the brain. But then there's an aspect of cultivating the habits. So those are now the logical way. So do you want to say that we have to amalgamate the left and the right aspects of our brain functioning to reach the highest value or achieve the highest value?
You know, our science segregates everything, because your human body, you know, there's a specialist for your lungs, for your kidney, for your heart, for your eyes. But do they ever work separately? They all synchronize. They all work together. So left and right brain, they interact. It's not. We have to basically let the brain be controlled by the oneness, the divine power. If the brain is controlled by our five senses, our human body, that will always be compromising our thoughts.
No, nowadays in India, there's a lot of this IPL league going on for the cricket. And now youngsters are breaking the earlier records, unbelievable records. Say in 20 overs, that is a 20 into 6 number of balls, they are hitting scores of 200 runs. And they have shattered their Indian records, shattered their, in say they are making 50 runs in say 13 balls, 14 balls. This was never heard of earlier. And they are breaking the frontiers of the barriers of the previously thought possibility by the human mind and the body coordination. Now, when they play, they are very smooth in their action. They are very smooth in their performance, and it looks like they are basically they are the best performing machines, human machines working at the stadium full of say 60,000 people and all. Whereas when they come out, then they talk about the experience. When they are playing, I think they are in this some supreme mode, which they themselves do not know what they are performing to and what they are achieving. There is a mind connect, mind and body connect, which works wonders. And this is a sight to see when this perform at these games. So anything of that related to these oneness mode or something, or meditative mode while they are playing?
You know, you're very right. If you see a great artist who plays amazing piano, so he's playing in Carnegie Hall, So before he gets onto the piano, when he walks on the stage, people clap him. And that moment, he's a little worried whether he'll be able to play or no. When he begin to play, and when he is at his peak, he does not exist. Only music exists. He become one with the music. And after he is done, when clapping happens and he gets up and takes a bow, ego comes in him back. So he's no more music. The music, the guy, when he was completely playing music, the same thing with these cricketers, when they are at their peak, when they're performing, they become one with the cricket.
Yeah, that's there.
So,
But another aspect is slowly they build up the tempo in the game. Then they are in the running mode. So as Mr. Ray was saying, first we have to walk and then probably build the speed, and then we are at the peak. That is, we are the best possible in that instance. And then only we can surpass our earlier performance.
so they go on to, they start slowly, but their intent is not to stay slowly. Their intent is to run while they're walking. So when you have an intent of adding the highest value, that is walking, that is running. And if you are only thinking of walking, you will never run.
Yes. Yeah, the players go with a predisposed mind that today, yes, I have to perform the best. Then only they are, I guess, able to do it.
Yeah, intent has to be there to add the highest value. You may not be able to add the highest value. Nobody can. But this intent is continuously make you do better and better and better. So if that intent is missing, that, let me do this today and I will do that tomorrow, that is disconnection.
One thing, is there any check that you are not falling back into your ego mode? And you're trying to say that I've done better this time, tomorrow I'll do better. Sometimes you may fall back in the ego mode. Any cross check?
Watch this show every week. That's the check.
Yes. But when you are in the performing mode, I'm in the player, you Mr. Ray, you have to see this action that is going on in the Indian TVs late night, say 2 hours from now. You have to really see the thrill. These players in the center of the stadium, surrounded by spectators, say 50,000, 60,000 in each stadium. And the thrill he is getting to play efficiently is mind-boggling. Whereas if he does one slight mistake, he's out. And then you have to see his face. He comes with a long drawn face back to his stadium and the duck pit. So there, I mean, if you relate in the corporate world, how do you relate this motivating people around you to do the best and the better than before? There is a disconnect there. Not every meeting is successful.
So
You have to build
after hitting a shot, which is a sixer or something, if he becomes proud, he's positioning himself to be victimized. He will be out soon. So he has to be grateful for something that's really happened. So the inner energies will give him the courage to continuously do better. So
yes, that happens. If he is humble there, doing his job, then he continues for a longer inning.
Yes.
Otherwise, he gets bowled out and he walks away.
Yep.